fought excellent. I got to give her an A-. Such a great A-.
This is a new era of women's boxing. I wanted this pressure, I wanted the spotlight. The experience and skill that I bring to the table is on another level.
Mikaela Mayer, I mean, when you worked with us in Cardiff, you came dressed as a different Spice Girl every day, and you've just walked through the door, come dressed as
Anna Woolhouse. Who's interviewing who today? Okay, I won't do that.
Is that how I speak? This is meant to be a serious interview, and now I just can't take you seriously. The glasses have got to go, I think, before we get stuck into it. I'm really impressed, though.
Honestly, you inspired me when I saw you in all the jumpsuits the last few times I was here, and I loved it. I've never had a jumpsuit. I'm like, I'm going to go get one of those. And when I knew you were interviewing me today, I was like, she probably thinks I'm going to dress like a Spice Girl, but I'm going to dress like her.
I'm very flattered. And once you've got one jumpsuit, you'll always wear them. You look great.
Thank you. So do you.
Do you want to keep the glasses on?
No,
Can you
I'm
see
blind.
me?
That's hurting my head. I'm good.
Right, let's get stuck into it. Let's go back years ago. What was it like growing up in Southern California?
Oh God, what part? In a nutshell, you know, I have two sisters. My dad raised us for most of our young adult life. We're with my mom until I was about 12, 13 years old, and then my dad got custody of all three of us girls when we were young. So that was rough because he's a great dad, totally supportive, but he worked a lot, and he was gone before the sun came up and home when the sun was already set. So there was just a part of my life where I was young and had too much freedom.
What were you like at school? Were you a studious pupil, or were you not a fan of school?
Naturally, I was very good at school. It always came very naturally to me. Always had good grades until it hit my early teens. Basically, long story short, by the time I hit my senior year, I was in my fourth high school. Been kicked out of a handful of them. I'd fallen way behind in classes. I wasn't set to graduate on time.
I believe you were into heavy metal. Were you in a heavy metal band? Is that right?
That was before my rebellious days. Yeah.
Where did that come from?
With my best friend in middle school. We picked up music together, and we were really into the rock and roll, and she played guitar, and she's like, well, you know, you could play bass and we can start a band. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. So I picked up the bass,
you
took some lessons.
Didn't you go across America doing it? Didn't you play?
Yeah, we did some tours. Yeah, this is after. So me and my friend had a falling out, and I was like, well, I still really want to be in a band. So I went on to Craigslist and put an ad out. And said, hi, I lied about my age. I said I was a couple years older because no one wanted to hang out with an 11-year-old, 12-year-old. And I said, I'm looking for an all-female rock metal band. These are my influences of Black Sabbath, Pantera, whatever. And I got a call, and I met up with these girls at the mall, like a couple days later, and they basically looked at me and they're like, well, assuming you can play bass, welcome to the band.
And could you?
And then we did, yeah. We had practice 3 times a week. We booked 2 U.S. tours together, played Warped Tour a few times, actually, when I was like 13 years old, so that was pretty amazing. But yeah, it was just a fun thing, and I'm such an extremist, so one day I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
You touched on there that your dad got custody of you when you were, 12, 13?
Yes.
What was the relationship like with your mum?
To this day, me and my mom don't have a relationship anymore. You know, she was an addict and an alcoholic growing up, so that was difficult growing up in that situation with her. But luckily we had our dad, and he was, you know, not many dads are willing to take 3 young girls into their house and be a single parent, so we're lucky that we had him to do that, and he's always been really supportive and helpful. And you know, I have 2 great sisters who we still have a really great relationship.
You mentioned the rebellious stage. Was that around that time in terms of what were you looking to escape from, do you think?
Gosh, I don't know what I was looking to escape from. I think it was just a combination of so many things. Like I said, my dad was gone in the morning, so guess how I went to school? I walked. And if I didn't want to go to school, I just didn't get up, and I just didn't go. And growing up in LA and stuff, I think I grew up pretty fast. You know, there's kids were partying, doing whatever they wanted at a young age. I had older friends, and so that wasn't the best influence on me either. And I just sort of was living above beyond my years.
You, at periods of time, didn't go home, was it for a couple of weeks?
I wouldn't, my dad, oh my God, I've put my dad
You
through
must
so
have
much.
absolutely put your dad through the ringer.
I just remember like little bits and pieces. I would come home and I'd knock on the apartment door and I'm like, he's gonna be so mad at me, he's gonna be so mad at me, because I hadn't been home in 2 weeks. And he opened the door and he was just like, Mikaela, you're home. He was so happy to see me, and I was like, I'm the worst child ever.
I guess no mobile phones, were they, around then?
No.
Really? So you couldn't really just ring him and say, where are you? Get home now.
Yeah, no. And so, and I was just young and dumb and had stupid boyfriends and was just not focused in on anything. And I really, really wanted to be successful at something. I think that was sort of what shifted me away from that lifestyle. And I thought I kind of caught on to this mindset late. I thought I kind of found my passion late in life, but in hindsight, I was quite young when I found boxing at 17 and sort of did a whole 180.
I guess it's lack of direction, isn't it? And then finding boxing. So how did that all come about?
Well, like I said, I was in my 4th high school. By the time in my senior year, they're like, you're going to graduate a year late. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to be here another year. There's no way. So that's when I was like, okay, Mikaela, this is not the type of life you want for yourself. You need to start something new, try something new. Just try something new. Like that was literally my thought process, try something new. And I was like, just get back into a sport. Because my dad had me in sports growing up, and like through my high school years, I wasn't doing anything. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna get back into a sport. And there was a Muay Thai.
I guess it's structure as well, isn't it?
Yeah, structure as well. And just getting into something other than like ditching class and messing around and hanging out with people. Like I just wanted to do something. And there was a Muay Thai kickboxing gym that I had driven past for years in my neighborhood that I grew up in, and I just walked in one day and signed myself up.
Age 17?
I was 17. The first thing I asked this guy, I went from like, being this type of kid to walking into this gym and going, am I too late to start competing? Because I was never the type to like half-ass anything. Even when I was in my band days, I was all in and then I was out.
All or nothing? That's
all
your
or
personality.
nothing. That's just always how I've been. So he said, well, how old are you? I'm like, I just turned 17. And he's like, well, you're a little late, but you can train and just see where it goes from there. And I was like, no, you'll see. I'm gonna make this happen. And I don't even know what I was thinking, but a couple weeks into training, I told myself I wanted to be the best female fighter in the world. I just knew, I just found my passion, that was it. But I immediately told myself, okay, well, can't smoke cigarettes anymore. I'm starting to run now, and my trainer would be like, hey, you got 2 miles, go run. And I'd be like, oh my God. So stop smoking the cigarettes, stop going out on Friday night so I can get up Saturday morning and train. There was only women's classes 3 times a week. And so obviously a few weeks in, I'm like, well, I want to be here every day. And I asked the coach, I'm like, can I come to the men's classes too? Nowadays, they would never separate the men's and women's classes, but they did back then.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, sure. A coach wants to see someone dedicated. They want to put their time into someone that is dedicated. So he said, yeah, absolutely. If you want to come to the men's classes, you can. And I just started going every single day. I went home and I was like, Dad, I signed myself up at the boxing gym. He's like, oh, okay.
Was he pro it, or was he kind of like, no, this is not
seeing where I
good?
was, like, and what I was into and what I was doing, he was totally into it.
Right.
And then 2 years later, they announced that they were going to allow women into the Olympics for boxing. And I'm like, Dad, I want to go for the Olympics. And most dads would have been like, okay, you just started boxing, go to school, whatever, absolutely not. And he was like, okay, yeah, you should do it, let's do it. And he was totally on board and totally supportive. And I think that's one of the best qualities my dad ever instilled in us, was to chase our dreams. He'd never instilled fear in us, never instilled doubt in us.
But to change your life so drastically, did you have to make drastic cuts in your life? Did you have to cut people out that you were hanging around with?
I lost all my friends.
Right.
Yeah, lost all my friends, stopped going out, I didn't care. Like I always say the most important thing in life is finding something you're passionate about, because everything falls in line after that. I didn't have to try super hard to stop partying and doing what I wanted. I wanted to stop. I didn't have to force myself to not go out on Friday nights. I just didn't want to. I found a purpose.
And you made the big move to Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Which that's a life-changing move. Were there any sort of feelings of trepidation? Were you worried? Were you scared? Or was it just kind of all in? This is what I want to do, and I'm just going to go, not looking back.
Yeah, when they announced that they were going to allow women into the Olympics, my dad knew I wasn't happy with my training. I was kind of like, I needed a coach that's going to take me to the next level, and he found the program online where I could go to college in northern Michigan, which here's California and here's
Miles
northern
away,
Michigan. Like,
yeah.
yes, in the North Pole, pretty much. And so, and I could go to college. I'm like, well, you know, I'm 19 now. I guess I should be going to college now at this age. And I could take classes. And it seemed like the perfect situation for me. But I was like, yeah, go ahead, Dad, look into it. And he hustled to get Coach Al on the phone. He never had a woman in the program. But he's like, my dad told Coach Al, like, they're allowing women into the Olympics now, you know, you have to take my daughter. Shortly after, my dad's like, they want you on a plane in 2 weeks. Classes start in 2 weeks. I'm like, all right, let's go. Quit my job. I always had a job. I always worked.
What did you work? What did you do?
I was waitressing. I was waitressing at this time. It was the best money for me at the time because I could go to classes, go to train, then go waitress, or vice versa, however it fit in. And yeah, I quit my job, broke up with my boyfriend, packed all the warm clothes I thought were warm at the time, and hopped on a plane. That was it. No questions, no ifs, ands, or buts.
What do you remember when you first met Coach Al? What did he sort of say to you? Because like you said, he didn't particularly want to train any women, did he?
I was excited to be there. I thought I was decent. I thought I was a good boxer, you know. I had confidence and I was thinking, okay, he's gonna be excited. Why wouldn't he be happy to have me? Like, I just felt like, and it was so opposite. He really just took me to fill a spot in the program. And like I said, I was the first female, and he's not used to having women in that program. He just broke me down. Like, I went there thinking I was something, and I was nothing. I mean, he really, really broke me down. And I just kept showing up, and I kept training, and I did whatever he asked, and I was running through the snow at 6 a.m. and sparring the guys and doing everything. And I think I really surprised him when we went to Olympic trials 2 years later. I fell into the loser bracket the second day and had to fight my way out. It was double elimination. Went back, made it to the finals, and then ended up losing by 2 points to Olympian at the time, Queen Underwood. But he told me after that tournament that he never expected me to go that far and that he knew that I really had what it took. What I think is tough for the women is we can't just be a good fighter. It's like not good enough just to be a good fighter to win your fights, because you're trying to break through this barrier where people don't really see you as equal as to the men yet. People don't see you as a fighter yet.
You did qualify for the Rio Olympics in 2016, didn't medal. What was your feelings around that time?
Well, you know, I waited another 4 years. That takes a lot of mental focus and little daily reward in a goal like that. Everyone who has trained to chase an Olympic dream knows little daily reward. But I wanted it so bad, and so obviously winning Olympic trials to this day is one of my greatest memories and accomplishments. I wish I would have stayed with Coach Al and spent more time with him going into the Olympics. You know, you sort of get taken away from your home coaches and they put you with Team USA, and I got caught up in that. I feel like I just got away from what Coach Al had been working on.
In what way? The magnitude of the Olympics, the kind of...
Style-wise, I feel like I wanted to be such a good student, and so I'm training with the national team coaches, and you know, I'm trying to really do what they're telling me and to adapt, and not just the student in me. But I think in hindsight, I really got away from what Coach Al had been working with me on for so many years. And I don't think I was my best at the Olympics. I don't think I went in there at my best. And honestly, that happens. Like, part of making it into the Olympics and medaling is like, you have to be peaking, everything has to be coming together. It's extremely hard. And so I didn't do it. It didn't happen for me. And yeah, there's probably some things I would have changed, but I can't. And I didn't want to go another 4 years. I'm like,
Because you decided to turn pro fairly soon after that.
Yeah.
Was that the thinking behind it, the fact that it hadn't quite worked out?
It was nothing I had expected. Yeah, I didn't get everything I thought I was going to get.
Are we just talking about medals, or
Not
in terms
just
of
the
like
medals.
publicity and things like that?
Not the medal, obviously, was very important, and I didn't get that, and so that was discouraging. But also just the way I felt, like I didn't feel like I performed at my best, so that was hitting me. I didn't feel like I was peaking. I didn't feel like I did what I was supposed to do, and also the media around it. You know, I thought I would come out of the Olympics with more opportunity and like on another level, but a couple months later, I was right back at nationals. Okay, Mikaela, what are you going to do? Like, you're not going to sit in this funk, and you're not going to go for another Olympics. You don't want. I knew I didn't want to. Like, I knew it wasn't in me. And so I said, where can I go to make the most of my athletic career while I'm still in my prime? And, you know, my manager made some calls, and I was going to go into MMA because that's where women were getting the money and the TV time and whatever, the recognition, but stars aligned for me. Thank God I didn't do that. I'm not getting kicked in the head. I'm able to stay with the sport that I love. But my manager got a call and a meeting with Top Rank.
What was the dream and what was the goal for you? Was it the belts? Was it winning titles? Was it the fame? What was it for you back then?
Initially, it was me wanting to challenge myself. I could have stayed very comfortable with USA Boxing. You know, you had your monthly stipend, I was an Olympian now, I lived for free, I ate for free, I had full covered health insurance, everything was like comfortable. But for me, that wasn't enough. Like, I didn't want comfort, I wanted to challenge myself. So it was initially to challenge myself in the pro world, help build a market where there was not a market, right? There wasn't a market for women in boxing in America. I was ready for the challenge, but I still didn't know much about it. And I don't think Top Rank knew much about how it was going to go either. I think that even though they signed me, I was still proving to them that I was a worthy investment, right? Because they didn't have a female. They didn't know how this was going to all play out.
Which is exciting, but it's also a lot of pressure on you. There's a lot to carry with that, a lot of expectation on your shoulder.
Yeah, I guess there was a lot of pressure, but I wanted that pressure. You know, I asked for it. I literally asked for it. I literally went out and found it.
Mayer Hamadouche, that was a career-defining fight, I guess, for you, and it was many people's fight of the year, wasn't it? A contender, a brilliant fight.
That was a great fight. You know, I think that up until that fight, Top Rank had moved me so well. I'd gotten so much experience against different types of fighters and different styles, and Hamadouche was by far my biggest test. You know, her record, her knockout percentage, like, there was a lot of people who thought that maybe this was the end of the road for me and that she was gonna expose me in some way. It gave me a chance to really show how versatile I am and how I can adapt to different styles and how skilled I am and how great my team is in my corner. And it really gave me a chance to like prove that I belonged in this sport amongst the top names.
Being a female in a sort of male-dominated industry, I get asked this all the time, and I almost get a bit fed up of being asked because you kind of don't want it to be sort of raised anymore. But do you feel there is some sort of pressure on your shoulders as a female in the sport to perform, you know, to produce those really exciting fights?
What I think is tough for the women is we almost have to do more than that. We can't just be a good fighter. It's like not good enough just to be a good fighter to win your fights. It's not good enough just to win. And Coach always said this to me. He's like, it really isn't, because you're trying to break through this barrier where people don't really see you as equal as to the men yet. People don't see you as a fighter yet. So you can't just win. You have to look good doing it. And on top of that, just the media and everything else and how we have to build our brand outside of the ring is so important as well. You know, we can't just sit there and we weren't able to rely on these big paydays and just sort of coast through. It's like we're constantly hustling, trying to do the media, trying to build our fan base, reel in sponsors. And so the women of this era have been really, really hustling hard. We've had to juggle a lot.
How important is legacy to you?
Very important. I definitely want to be remembered as one of the greatest female boxers ever. I'm honored to be a part of this era. I think this is such an important era of women's boxing. The women in this era are going to be remembered forever, because although there was women's boxing, you know, decades ago with Mia St. John and Layla Ali and everyone, those group of girls or women, it died out. It died out for a while. There was such like this time where there was no women's boxing.
It's a void, wasn't it? It needed to be filled.
But that won't happen with this era. There's no possible way. We're able to compete at the Olympics now. The talent pool is just so deep. You have these young girls coming up, I mean, that are incredibly talented, have hundreds of fights by the time they hit my age. And so it's going to be really amazing to see. There's no denying it. I really don't think it'll ever die out again.
Is it important to you to be involved in inspiring that next generation? Because when we were down in Cardiff, you went into a gym, didn't you, and did some stuff with some younger children.
I think that's part of my legacy, is helping to create this blueprint, because I didn't have it. And like I said, looking back, I'm like, God, what was I even thinking? But not everyone's gonna have that type of mentality and that risky mentality. I did, and I'm hoping that me, along with the other top girls right now, we've sort of created this blueprint. Now there's a path to follow.
Do you have any regrets or anything that you would have done differently? Or do you think the stuff that happened in your earlier years, putting your dad through absolute hell, do you think that's probably given you the tools and the reason why you are where you are today?
Yeah, I don't regret anything about my path. It led me exactly to where I am right now, and I'm very happy with where my career is. I'm very happy with who I am, you know, as a fighter, as a woman, as an athlete. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't have changed anything.
You have an enormous fight coming up at the O2 in London against Alycia Baumgardner. How are you feeling about that? There's definitely bad blood between the two of you.
Yep.
Is that part of it for you? Do you enjoy that side? Is it? And a lot of people always say, is it real? Like,
me and Baumgardner's beef is definitely real. I would never fake it. I mean, I would never fake a rivalry. That's just not my style. That's corny, right? I would never do that. But for me, my thing is I want to fight the best. And she beat Terry Harper, got the belt, became champion. And so naturally, I came for her. I called her out. I said, let's fight. Let's get this fight. Let's make this fight. It's for the fans, for my legacy, but for the fans. The fans want to see it. Let's not wait around. Like, I feel like the best fights sometimes don't get made because people try and wait for the perfect moment to make them. And I didn't want that to be the case. I don't want that to be the case for us women in this era, in this generation of women's boxing. I think we have a chance to set the tone and be daring and give the fans the fights that they really want to see. And so I really, really push for this fight.
how do you beat Baumgardner?
I've had all the experience. I've had all the support. I feel like I have the best team in the world. Coach Al, best coach in the world. I have a great manager. I have a great promoter. They've given me all the great fights, all the best fights to challenge me in different ways. There's no reason I shouldn't win this fight. There's no excuse. You're going to see a little bit of everything coming from me. I don't want to just win this fight, and neither does Coach Al. We really, really, really want to dominate this fight, and we want it to be the best performance of our career to date.
It's going to be brilliant.
It is.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Anna.
You're welcome. I just think that I'm the more complete fighter. She has never, ever fought somebody like me.
She feels threatened. She knows that her time is coming. I knew that I wanted to fight this girl.
This is between me and my destiny. I'm ready to achieve all my dreams. Nothing's gonna stop me. I'm supposed to be here. I have no fear. One step forward, never looking back. I'll never fall off track. I stay ready to fight back.
She wants to go ahead and dismiss me and dismiss my power, my technique and skill and ability. That's where she's gonna lose right there.
She's putting on this persona that she's the top dog, I'm the best.
I stay ready to fight back.
I'm gonna take it to her, and I have every intention of stopping her.
This is legacy, this is history. I want this.
Sky Sports. Feel